Every year, billions of gummy bears are eaten around the world. But have you ever wondered how these chewy, colorful bears are actually made? From sugar and gelatin to the playful bear shape, the process might surprise you. But this global craze actually began long ago, in the early 1900s. A candy maker named Hans Riegel in Germany thought it would be fun to create a chewy treat shaped like little dancing bears. But how does a gummy bear go from an idea to a tasty, chewy treat? To know this, we have to peek into the candy factory and meet the star ingredient, gelatin, which gives gummies their chewy, melt-in-your-mouth texture. For plant-based versions, candy makers swap gelatin with pectin from fruits or agar from seaweed, proving gummies can be made in many creative ways. Once the ingredients are chosen, the very first step in the factory is called compounding. Compounding means bringing everything together in the right order, at the right temperature, and in the right amounts. Workers are like candy conductors, making sure no ingredient comes in too soon or too late. Instead of using small bowls like we would at home, they use gigantic stainless steel mixing tanks. These tanks aren't ordinary, they're called jacketed cookers. Imagine a giant shiny pot surrounded by a metal jacket. Inside that jacket, hot steam or chilled water flows, allowing the candy makers to raise or lower the temperature with amazing precision. At the start, gelatin, or pectin or agar, is sprinkled into the mixing tank with a splash of cool water. The step is important because it allows the gelatin to hydrate and thicken for 5 to 10 minutes before cooking begins. Without this rest, the mixture could turn clumpy. Then the syrup and sweeteners like glucose or corn syrup are poured in. These sweeteners not only give gummies their sugary taste, but also prevent the candy from crystallizing into hard rock candy. Flavors and colors are added later in the process because timing matters. Add them too early and the heat could dull the bright rainbow colors or fade the fruity punch. Now comes the science of temperature. The mixture must be cooked between 230 degrees Fahrenheit and 240 degrees Fahrenheit. This range is just right, hot enough to make the syrup smooth and activate the gelatin, but not so hot that the flavors burn away. To keep everything perfectly blended, the tank uses a high shear mixer, a powerful blade that whirls through the syrup like a turbo whisk. It breaks down any lumps and keeps the mixture silky. Without this mixture, parts of the tank might overheat while others stay too cool, creating an uneven batch. Sometimes candy makers also use a vacuum cooker in this step. A vacuum cooker gently boils the mixture at lower temperatures by reducing the air pressure inside, which helps control moisture and makes the final gummy texture more consistent. The mixture is not just cooked, it's also watched carefully. Candy scientists test samples during this stage to make sure the syrup has the right thickness, called viscosity. Too runny and the bears won't hold their shape. Too thick and they'll turn rubbery. Every batch has to match the golden standard set by the company so the gummies taste the same whether you eat them today or 5 years from now. Once the syrup has reached its golden stage, it's not rushed forward. Just like a cake that needs cooling before icing, the gummy mixture has to rest and cool carefully. The cooling happens in controlled steps. First, it comes down to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. This slow cooling ensures the mixture gets the right chewy bounce. If it cools too quickly, the candy may turn brittle and snap. If it cools too slowly, the bears could become sticky or even sweat with moisture on their surface. Later, once the gummies are fully formed, they're stored at 60 degrees Fahrenheit to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, the sweet spot that keeps them stable, fresh, and perfectly chewy for months. This stage of mixing is like the foundation of a house. If it's not strong, everything else will wobble. The machines, the temperatures, and the careful hands of the compounders all work together to make sure the gummy base is flawless. Before this golden syrup moves on, it must go through a very important test: quality control. In a little lab inside the factory, candy scientists check if the mix looks, smells, and tastes perfect. They test its stickiness, sweetness, and even its color. If something is off, maybe it's too runny or too thick, the whole batch is fixed before it goes forward. After all, nobody wants a gummy bear that tastes funny or falls apart. Only when the syrup passes this test is it allowed to travel to the next magical stop. Now comes the heart of gummy making, a marvelous machine called the Mogul. Picture it like a candy amusement park ride that never stops moving. The Mogul is the king of gummy bear production because it can do many jobs all at once. Candy makers have trusted this machine for over 100 years. Early versions were invented back in 1899. At first, Moguls were made from wood, but as factories grew more modern, they were rebuilt from sturdy steel. The design kept improving, and in 1952, an engineer named Hans Arthur Farber created the form we see in factories today. So what makes this machine so special? It works with starch molding, a method perfect for candies that start out as runny syrups or gels, like gummy bears or jelly beans. Each Mogul tray is filled with a fine layer of starch, usually corn, wheat, or rice starch. Potato starch doesn't work well here because it clumps when drying. This starch isn't added for flavor. Instead, it acts like a clever little assistant. It keeps the sticky gummy mix from clinging to the trays, helps each candy hold its shape, and even soaks up extra water so the gummies end up firm, chewy, and easy to handle. Inside the Mogul, the trays are pressed by something called a printing board. This board stamps tiny bear-shaped dents into the starch, almost like pressing footprints into snow. Each dent is a mold waiting to be filled with gummy magic. Then comes the depositor, a row of precise nozzles that squirts the warm gummy syrup right into those starch cavities. These nozzles are super smart. They squirt just the right amount so every bear is exactly the same size. In modern Moguls, the depositor can even add different flavors and colors at the same time. So red bears and green bears can be made side by side in one single run. It's candy-making efficiency at its sweetest. Once the trays are filled, they ride along the conveyor belt to a stacker machine, which neatly piles them high and rolls them into a cooling room. This room feels like a giant refrigerator, and the bears stay there for nearly 24 hours. During this long nap, the gummy liquid slowly firms up and becomes the chewy candy we all know. Quality checks sneak in here too. Technicians peek at random trays, checking if the bears are setting properly, not sagging or melting. If they find one tray looking odd, they catch the problem before it spreads. The next morning, the cooled trays return to the Mogul for another fun step, the Starch Buck. Here, the trays flip upside down and the gummy bears tumble out like little candy acrobats. But they're still dusted in starch, so they land onto a vibrating screen called a sieve. The sieve shakes and jiggles, brushing off all the powder with tiny oscillating brushes. Newer factories even use puffing air jets that blow away the starch in seconds, making the process even faster. Once again, quality control plays its part. Workers inspect the bears to make sure none are broken or misshapen. But what about all that starch dust? Factories don't waste it. The starch is whisked away into a conditioning system where it gets cleaned, dried with hot air, cooled with fresh air, and then sent back for reuse. This recycling trick not only saves resources, but also keeps the candy-making loop running smoothly. By now, the bears are free from starch but not quite ready to meet the world. They slide along conveyor belts to another magical step, polishing. Here, they roll inside a rotating drum where a gentle mist of coconut oil, carnauba wax, or beeswax coats their surface. This gives them that glossy jewel-like shine and keeps them from sticking together inside the bag. Imagine it as the gummy bear's spa treatment. After all the mixing, molding, and tumbling, they get a final beauty polish before showtime. Of course, even in this shiny stage, quality control is watching closely. Workers and machines check if the sheen is even, if the gummies bounce just right when dropped, and if the fruity smell matches the standard. Sometimes a trained panel of tasters even nibbles a few to confirm the flavor is spot on. These tests may sound fun, but they are serious business, because every bag of gummies must taste exactly the same, no matter when or where it is bought. Finally, the candy has completed its long journey. From giant mixers and clever Mogul machines to cooling rooms and polishing drums, each bear has been crafted with care, tested for quality, and polished to perfection. Finally, the cleaned, cooled, shiny bears march off to the final stop, the packaging line. And just like that, from a swirl of syrup to a tray of colorful, chewy creatures, the yummiest gummy bear is born.